We're all born with that. And that doesn't mean that it's exactly the same thing that's right for everyone else. We have to understand that there are different paths. They all lead up the same mountain. And there's no judgment about another person's path when you're dealing with shamanism. There's no condemnation of it. There's an understanding where glitches might be, yes. But there's also an understanding that glitches exist within shamanism as well. The person practicing shamanism doesn't necessarily have the same code that I do or you do. And so it's a matter of figuring out, does this feel like it's something that is enriching, that it is something that is empowering? So the basic difference is direct connection, and you'll know if the shaman is helping you in that regard because he or she will be helping you get your own direct connection. When I'm working with people, my job is not to keep them coming back. My job is to get them well so that they don't have to come back. So in a way I put myself out of work a lot of times. However, in putting myself out of work, I'm also helping that ripple to go out throughout the entire world, because each person who gets their direct connection ripples that energy forth to the next person, etc., etc. So it's all about hooking up with spirit. Through connecting with nature, you are connecting with Gaia, with this Earth Mother upon whose body we walk every single day. The trees, for example, are our symbionts, because without them we have no oxygen, we do not live. It breaks my heart that clear-cutting goes on in the name of industry, because no one will have a job if no one can breathe. So when we have a deep connection with the earth, we respond to her needs. Sometimes that means we hug a tree. Sometimes that means we become more ecological activists, things like that. For myself, my personal path, it's not so much about being an activist on a grand scale. It's about doing it on an individual scale. It's about communing with the trees, the flowers, the plants in my yard, in the forests that I walk, etc., etc., so that I listen. Spirit and nature tell me they kind of like how I listen, because a lot of times people are too talkative and they don't recognize they have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So I listen and I respond. So if a tree, for example, is struggling, it will communicate that to me. And I'll ask it, what do you need? And it will tell me. So maybe that's fertilizer, maybe that's, a particular form of pruning, maybe it's extra water. It doesn't really matter what it is, I will help in whatever way I can. And that's my way of connecting with nature. And I like to help people to understand that they don't have to live 7 hours from everywhere to be able to connect. They don't have to, for example, be in a temple on a remote mountain in Tibet or something in order to be able to connect with spirit. They need to connect with the earth. She is spirit. She is part of the entire grand scheme of the entire universe. And so through connecting with her, because we are her children, through connecting with her, we are able to connect with spirit much better. So nature is an essential part of all of it. All of the rituals and ceremonies that I perform have nature-based aspects to it, be it stones or trees or plants or elements, fire, water, earth, air, the whole 9 yards. It's all part of that interconnectedness of all the energies throughout the entire universe, throughout our world, throughout every cell in every body that lives on this earth. Meditate. Get still. Focus on your breath moving in and out of your body. when your mind goes on tangents, bring it back. Don't judge yourself for it. Don't condemn yourself for it. Just bring it back to the breath moving in and out of your body. There are also other things you can do, like having sea salt baths, or lighting a candle, holding a stone, connecting with crystals, that kind of thing. Connecting with family. The family unit is so sacred, and it's been so destroyed in Western culture over and over and over again. And it's important, and I don't define family in any one particular way. I don't ever want to let people believe that I think that a family unit is only one particular type of family unit. That's not truth for me.
Mm-hmm.
But connecting with family, connecting with the ones you love, and connecting with the family that aren't blood related. We all have a tribe. It's just that sometimes we're scattered around the world and we have to connect. And that's the one thing that I really like about technology these days, is that it makes it easier to Skype across the planet and connect with the people that we are connected with. Art was the very first form of shamanic practice, because when we're creating, we connect with the creator. We go into a bit of a trance. Everybody does it. They don't realize always that they're going into a trance as they're creating, but they are. Now, back when we were living in caves, what the artist shaman would do would be, paint the bison or the horses or whatever, the deer, and as they're doing that, they're connecting in with the consciousness of the herd, and they're getting a location. And so then they tell the hunters, over that hill to the east, you'll find the herd. Avoid the one on the left, she's pregnant. Go. And so they would take just as much as their people needed. They'd avoid the one on the left because she was pregnant. And then bring home the food so that we could survive. And that was just the beginning. I mean, it assisted the people in terms of the hunting and that kind of thing. But then it's also about innovation. As time goes on, we have, as shamans, envisioned tools. We might not have the skill to make that tool, but there are other people who are tool makers, so we would take the design to them, and then they would make that tool. So the wheel would get invented, for example. The spear, the arrow, the whatever. It would get invented because we would need it for a particular thing. Well, one thing is, stop using chemicals. Chemicals are toxic. That's why they're made, so that they can kill off weeds or pests or whatever. Find natural alternatives to those chemicals so that you're not toxing up the food. We wonder why there's so much of an epidemic of cancer in our culture when we look at what we do to our food, how it's grown and how it's bred and slaughtered and things like that. It's no wonder. There's trauma left, right, and center, and then there's toxic energy and toxic chemicals going into our foods. So the more organic we can get, the better, and the less chemical substance we put into things, the better. We can't grow things with chemicals in the soil, so it's important to make sure the soil is really clean as well. Then there's the thing of when we have that inclination that we should, maybe plant a tree. What's holding you back? Plant a tree! Everything that we do that nourishes and nurtures the earth helps. Now, you may have noticed, I have a front lawn. My goal down the road is to not have a front lawn, because I cannot stand the fact that perfectly drinkable water goes into watering my front lawn. To me, that is a horrid waste of a natural resource. just for things to look green and pretty. I would much rather grow a garden there. I would much rather have a xenoscape, or xeroscape, I guess it's called, and have things that are very hardy to this area so that the rain can water them, instead of me having to water them with drinking water. Collecting rainwater. Not a lot of people do that anymore, but it is so important to collect rainwater, and that way you don't have to use fresh drinkable water to water your gardens. You just use the rainwater you've collected.